Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today's topic is important if you're living with chronic pain. I'm going to say something that's a bit controversial. Sometimes the fear of pain can mess you up more than the actual pain you're experiencing. So how can you tell if your fear is making your pain worse? We'll dive into that today. We'll also unpack a super effective treatment called exposure that's all about facing your fears to reduce your pain's impact on your life. We've got research-backed tips to help you live a life less ruled by fear and pain. So hit that like button, subscribe, and let's jump right into it. And speaking of fears, you may have heard of a term called kinesiophobia. It sounds fancy, but it's basically being scared to move because you think you're going to hurt yourself. And here's the thing, being too cautious can actually make your pain worse. Yep, it's a vicious cycle involving overthinking, being too aware of every little body sensation, and dodging activities that might actually be okay for you. All right, folks, let me start with a little story that might sound familiar if you're somebody living with chronic pain. Now, imagine you're at a family barbecue and someone suggests a game of catch. The old you would have jumped at the chance, but now just the thought of a quick move or twist floods your mind with worry. You start having thoughts like, what if I twist the wrong way? What if I end up in pain for days? So you politely decline, sit back down, trying to look happy while your mind races with the what ifs. Now, if you found yourself nodding along to this story, you're definitely not alone. This brings us back to the key term I talked about a while ago called kinesiophobia. This is just a fancy word that really means a scary fear of moving because you think it's going to hurt. And here's where it gets even trickier. This fear, this kinesiophobia, it can lead you to act in ways that actually make your pain stick around longer. You might start thinking the worst. You might have thoughts like, I'm going to get really hurt if I move. And you become really turned into every tiny ache and pain in your body because of these thoughts. You start avoiding stuff that might not be as risky as you think it is. So yes, the game of catch that you turned on earlier, you might be caught in a cycle because you're avoiding due to the kinesiophobia. Now, why does this matter? Well, because pain-related fear and behaviors like avoiding movement can lead to more disability than the pain itself does. That's right. Your mindset can make your physical condition worse. And it's not just me saying this. The research backs this up. Research shows that fear often leads to specific psychological patterns, things like worry, increased muscle reactivity, and escape and avoidance behaviors. So it's not just in your head. It has real physiological consequences of the fear of movement. All right, time to break it down and focus on one thing. So let's start with worrying. When you're in this grip of fear, your mind can start racing with all these doom and gloom thoughts. You know, thoughts like, what if I can't walk again, right, without hurting? All right, how about this? Picture a set of dominoes as your thoughts. One small negative thought can set off a chain reaction, making everything feel way worse than it actually is. See how one little push leads to a whole lot of chaos? That's kind of what happens in your head when you start pain catastrophizing. You're setting off a mental domino effect that makes your pain feel like the end of the world even before anything happens. So here's something you might not have thought of. Your body actually listens to your brain. Yeah, it's true. If you're anxious or worried, your muscles get the memo to tense up. This can make your pain even worse when you move. All right, let's make this easier again. Think of your brain as this remote control and your body as a drone. When you're calm and centered, your brain, like a good remote control, keeps the drone flying smoothly in the air. All systems go, right? But when you start getting scared or thinking, oh, this is gonna hurt, your brain sends out a panic signal to your body, just like pushing the wrong button on this remote. Now see that? Your worried thoughts are like accidentally hitting the panic button on your body's remote control. And the result? Your muscles tense up, the flight gets erratic, and you're more likely to feel pain. So learning how to keep that mental remote control in smooth flight mode can make a big difference. All right, let's shift gears and talk about body awareness right now. When you're dealing with kinesiophobia, your attention to what's going on in your body goes into overdrive. You become like a hawk, zeroed in on its prey, except your prey is every tiny twinge or ache in your body. Imagine your focus is like this imaginary magnifying glass. Normally, you might not notice little things like a small muscle twitch, but with kinesiophobia, it's like you're looking at a tiny twitch through this huge magnifying glass. All of a sudden, it becomes the biggest deal ever, way out of proportion to what it actually is. All right, now hang on because this is where it gets even wilder. You know, we've been talking about fear and pain, right? Well, this fear can actually mess with your autonomic nervous system. Fancy terms, but stick with me for a sec. All right, now imagine this jar of water is your autonomic nervous system, and this sponge is your body. Normally, everything is pretty calm, just like this water in the jar. But When the fear kicks in, it's like squeezing the sponge. Things get shaken up. The water starts to ripple, just like your insides. You might feel your heart rate go up, or maybe you'll even start sweating. All right, now take a look at the jar of water. Now this food coloring represents fear. See how the drop of fear changes everything? Now the water isn't so calm anymore, right? In the same way, fear can change what's happening inside your body, messing with your heart rate or even making your skin feel moist. It's a clear sign of how your mental state can affect you from the inside out. All right, so we've covered how fear messes with your thoughts in your body, but wait, there is more. Now, kinesiophobia also changes your behavior, the things you actually do. Now, imagine each cup of coffee over here represents different parts of your life. This one over here that's labeled life is full of all the good stuff. Activities, social gatherings, hobbies, and so on. And this other cup over here, this one's avoidance. And that's where you pour the coffee when you're avoiding life because you're afraid it'll cause you pain. Now here I'm transferring some coffee from the life mug to the avoidance mug. Think of this pouring action as that urge to escape when you are in a painful situation. So what happens? You're tempted to make a quick exit, right? And you end up pouring even more coffee into the avoidance mug, making it fuller and fuller. Now I'm pouring more coffee from the life mug into the avoidance mug. But see here, the problem is the more coffee you pour into the avoidance mug, the less fulfilling and enriching your life coffee becomes. It's a cycle. You're scared of pain, so you avoid stuff, and avoiding stuff makes you more scared. It's an endless loop. Our goal here is to start pouring this coffee back into your life mug, making your life as enriching and enjoyable as possible. So yeah, this fear we've been talking about, it can make your everyday life tough. You might stop doing fun stuff, or you might having a hard time doing simple day-to-day things like cooking or cleaning or spending time with loved ones. And get this, like we've been saying, research says that being scared about pain can actually mess you up more than the actual pain itself. So tackling this fear is going to be super important. Stay tuned as we dive into ways to actually face it head on. Now, you might think that doing stuff like distracting yourself or just chilling out should make the pain better, right? Well, if you're scared of your pain, those things often don't help much. It's like putting a band-aid on a big problem. It just doesn't cut it. So then what can we do to break free from this fear pain loop? Well, first off, catch those negative thoughts, what experts call catastrophic thinking. These are your brain's way of making mountains out of molehills. When you catch yourself thinking really bad thoughts about your pain, just go ahead and write them down. Seeing them on paper can actually help you realize how you're making your fear worse. All right, now step 2 is to shift your focus. Don't zero in on your pain. Do stuff that makes you happy and keeps you moving. Maybe it's walking your dog, maybe it's painting, maybe it's cooking. Whatever it is, start small and work your way up. The point is to build your strength and courage up little by little. All right, now on to step number 3. Step number 3 is progressive exposure. This sounds kind of technical, but it's really simple. It just means to slowly work your way up to doing the stuff you've been avoiding because you're scared it'll hurt. Don't jump into the deep end, just wade in slowly, step by step. The goal is to dial down that fear bit by slowly engaging and exposing yourself to things that you previously thought were scary. So here's what you need to remember. Kinesiophobia, this big fear of movement, might be making your pain worse, but you're not stuck with it, right? By doing things like catching those bad thoughts, changing your focus, and easing into activities, you can start taking your life back. So now you've got the basics of kinesiophobia and its role in amplifying your pain, but you can also work with a professional to address it, like a psychologist who specializes in chronic pain. Go ahead and click on the video over here to watch my previous video on how to find psychologists who specialize in chronic pain. Working with a pain psychologist on CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy for chronic pain can help you understand and manage the mental part of your chronic pain. Let's get you on the path to a fuller, less painful life. Go ahead and click on that video again, and I will see you guys in the next video.